Hi, I'm David Byrne, and this is my audio evaluation for my final major project.
My turn. Okay, so David, we're just going to jump straight into it. Okay, so the first question is, how did the project come around, and what did you do to start off the project, and what was all involved at the actual start and the beginning of the project?
So this project, obviously, it was the last one. So I didn't really have an idea, and there's a lot of pressure to make sure it's like perfect because obviously my whole grade is affected by whatever it did. So my initial idea was to actually do a podcast because I thought you can't really go wrong with doing that editing wise or filming wise because you're always going to have something that should be of good quality because you're going to spend that much time making it. But then in the end I did decide to do an advert. My main reason for doing that was because I enjoyed doing the GHQ advert, so I thought why not bring everything that I did in that to my final major project and make it better times 10. Like from when we were handed the brief, all we had to do really was think of some initial ideas, like we were creating mind maps. So I really then narrowed it down to a podcast and an advert, and doing that really helped me, like especially when it was coming up to presenting what we wanted to do, it really helped me decide that I really did want to do a advert. By this point, doing the presentation, I really had to summarise the purpose of everything I was doing with a few slides and explain to the class why I wanted to do it. And that really helped me create a time plan of where I wanted to be at what point. So obviously, because we've only got a certain set amount of weeks, especially with COVID and everything, everything's gone a bit fast. So I really had to plan everything down to the T of when, like now, I've actually finished a week earlier because of that time plan I created, because I ended up editing a lot earlier after reshooting some stuff. But the whole process of that was because I'd made such a good time plan. So I feel like that's one of the main things behind my process.
How did you research the audience, and what's the right audience for each, do you think?
So a lot of this was initial research. I had to get 10 different adverts and discuss them, how like they reach their target audience. And I felt like obviously I was doing a drinks advert, so that's the kind of advert that I focused on. And a lot of the time they were using celebrity endorsement to appeal to a certain generation of kids. So I feel like that for me was like this kind of similar target audience. Obviously I couldn't get a celebrity endorsement, but I could appeal to what they like, and I could also take other stuff from all the adverts that I saw and implement them in my own advert in a way that shows my advert as being like relevant and kind of similar to the other adverts with still being its own thing. Just ask it.
Okay, so moving on to the next question, what was the roles in production and how did they impact your advert?
So with this, my last project was a bit like, it was one of the first projects that I did on my own. So this project was really like the starting point of like, I'm in charge of everything. I have to make sure I do certain stuff, and I have to know when I'm going to do it, and I have to specifically know what I want to do on what day. So, and other than that, I had to source actors to be in my advert. So that was Hannah Waits, who's in our class. Other than that, roles of production wise, I was handling everything.
So moving from that, how would you say you doing everything impacted your project, your final product?
I mean, later down the line, especially coming to filming, there was a lot of time where I was struggling to get that done. I had to go for 3 or 2 reshoots because some of my footage just wasn't usable. But other than them hiccups, I feel like I handled it well.
Okay, so do you think there was any variations in the process, and like what were they?
Yeah, so the main variations were just filming wise. Obviously I'd planned a shot list on a storyboard, but having it on paper and then actually doing it, obviously it's different, and I feel like that just really like tripped me up a bit because a lot of the footage, it's what I wanted it to be. it didn't look how I expected it to look. So when it did come to editing later down the line, I did end up reshooting some stuff and just chopping a lot of stuff out for the sake of the advert to just make it look better.
Okay, so moving on from that question, how do you think your project could be improved overall?
I feel like especially if we had more time, obviously, because we haven't had a lot of time in college compared to what we would have had before COVID. I feel like if I had a lot of time in college, I could have really taken time, especially at the start, to like plan more of a detailed like narrative to follow the advert with, whereas a lot of like the planning and research, I had to do a lot of that at home, so I feel like that hindered the project a bit, like just with distractions and being able to do the certain level of amount of work. So to improve, I'd definitely say if I had a lot more planning time.
Would you say that is there anything that you could improve during the actual pre-production stage, so the pre-production, post-production, or production?
I feel like I could have used a lot more materials, like shot list wise. Obviously, I needed a lot more to support that filming process, just to get it spot on. I feel like that really would have helped, but obviously we were limited by time and I had already had a timetable where I was supposed to be, and I did end up catching up with myself and really getting ahead of myself. Like now I'm talking about the editing process and I've nearly finished the editing process.
Okay, so moving on from how could it be improved, do you think there was any unintended outcomes? I know you touched on the shot having to reshoot, but was there any more unintended?
From the get-go, there's a lot of location-wise. So I started filming in the college. From the get-go, that was just I was trying to do test shots, but I didn't really have an idea of where I wanted to film because I didn't know what would look right. But having seen some of the shots in college, I really that hit me in the face that I can't film in college. Like, given that it's my FMP as well, it would have just looked bad. But obviously I did manage to source somewhere outside wise.
Do you think that you was well organised throughout the whole project?
Yeah, because obviously I had the timetable, so that helped. I had all the material. I had a lot of materials, maybe not all the ones I could have had, but I did have a lot of stuff that helped me in and out of filming, editing. So yeah, I do think I was well organised.
What was your favourite part to do within the project?
Lately, when I've done the solo projects, I have found the best process to be editing, just seeing all the work come together, and then to be able to just have full control. Yeah, seeing everything come together and having control over when I could have finished it. I'd say about a day's more work of editing and I'll be finished.
Would you say that you obviously had a vision of what you wanted it to look like in your head?
Yeah.
When you were doing pre-production and production.
I had made a few storyboards. I only ended up using the one though because I just knew that was what I wanted to do.
So would you say from looking at the storyboards and putting it into editing, would you say you enjoyed it because it was satisfying just seeing it fall
Yeah,
together?
it was more satisfying just seeing everything like how I envisioned it.
Okay, so moving on from that question, what was your least favourite part, would you say?
The reshoots for me were very stressful because obviously I had the person acting in it. They obviously have their own work to do, but there was a lot of do a change person, but then I've already got previous footage because I've got to change location because everything looks bad. But coming out the other side of that it felt like a massive relief, weight off my shoulders.
Okay, so what lessons have you learnt from this project?
Planning wise, always know what you're going to do before you go out and do it. For example, I really messed up with locations and stuff. Just always make sure test shots are a very good way to see if something works. make sure you always have a plan B, not necessarily to change everything, but change how you're going to do everything.
So would you say next time you do shoot something, you make sure that you planned well? And make
Yeah,
sure
more planning, a lot more time spent on planning and organising.
Yeah, so just moving on to the last two questions now. So were you impressed with the final product, and if you had to redo it, what would you change?
So I feel like yes, I was, because it was what I'd envisioned, but I feel like if I could change something, there would be a lot more of a structured narrative to overall improve it, because I don't want to say that it was like what I filmed was random. It just, I feel like other stuff could have been done to make it more like smooth and like.
I like the way the actors positioned, or like
Yeah,
the bottles positioned.
like all that kind of thing.
So if you had to redo it, you would change the way the whole pre-production is.
Yeah, I'd probably change a lot of how the filming went.